Bonnie Clark. We stand together and accept that we now live in a world transformed by Fukushima. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time here on UCY.TV radio. We relentlessly engage every ear that listens. We expose and confront the complete lack of accountability for the nuclear industry. Consider social engineering programs who view our bodies, minds, and souls as assets on a balance sheet. We discuss vital current issues, interview activists, and engage our audience in an effort to allow all voices to be heard. The Age of Fission radio show creates a venue that all will choose. We encourage our listeners to reclaim their power and their courage to take action and save our planet from the ravages of greed and indifference. Our actions matter. Every voice matters. We remind our listeners that happiness is resistance. Love is greater than fear.
Oh, good morning, guys. I'm sorry. I think I'm live right now. Could somebody confirm I'm live? Because I had trouble getting in on Skype here when I tried to connect for the show. I don't know if you guys can hear me or not. Could somebody type me real quick, please? Hello.
Oh, shit. I'm here.
Yeah, I know you are, Sunshine. I don't know if I'm on the air. I'm waiting for somebody over in chat to confirm that they're hearing me right now. Why is there silence? Nobody can hear me over there? Okay, hey, listen, if you guys can hear me, sorry about the confusion here. I was trying to pull my guest. Yeah, I know, I'm talking right now. Anyways, good morning, folks, and welcome to The Big Puzzle. I'm Barry Prince, coming to you live from my kitchen in northern British Columbia through the facilities of UCY TV. Sorry about the little mix-up there at the beginning, but anyways, originally today I had a politician joining me from Canada, but she messaged me last night and told me she couldn't make the show today, but she will be on next Friday. We were gonna slam Trump today, or Trudeau today, but on short notice I called a friend of mine because she is frontline right now on these fires that are happening in California, and a couple of her friends have been directly impacted by these fires. One of her friends was involved rescuing these horses yesterday. Welcome to the show, Sunshine, and what we're seeing right now in California just absolutely boggles my mind. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Barry. Thanks. It is really crazy. I've lived here in Southern California for 30 years, and we've had a couple of occasions when the fires have gotten pretty bad over the years, but it's something that you're never really prepared for. It's the devastation that's going on. When you see some of the video, the homes that are burning, the losses that are taking place, it's pretty overwhelming. So we've been experiencing a lot of that in this country. Devastating floods, devastating fires, devastating hurricanes, that kind of stuff. There's a lot of people who are being misplaced from their homes and losing everything that they have, and I think that's something that people here in America need to recognize and being there for each other. But this is also a worldwide thing, and we'll get into more of that later.
Yeah, I've been, the last hour here, Sunshine, I've been watching some of the videos and the newscasts and the projections for the fire today there. Why this is happening right now, it kind of raises a big question because they're calling right now, and actually looked at the weather forecast for these areas for today, and they're calling for possibly the strongest winds they've ever seen in that area. Well, boy, oh boy, you combine that with what we're seeing right now, and I think we're looking at an event that's unprecedented myself. I mean, according to what they're saying about these winds are going to absolutely just fan this fire. And there's a lot of dry, dead stuff sitting in front of them. 200,000 people now have been evacuated out of the front of this fire, apparently.
Well, there's several,
unbelievable. Yeah. Beverly Hills is ablaze right now. I was just looking at a video on that. It's just, wow, man. Almost something like out of a movie, but it's not. Go ahead.
I haven't really had a chance to take a look at it today, but it's there's several fires that are happening all at the same time here in Southern California. The one that's closest to me is the Lilac Fire, and that started yesterday at around 11 o'clock, and within 5 or 6 hours, it had consumed over 2,500 acres in zero containment. So it was very, very fast moving. I have a friend who works at a horse training facility, and that fire we're talking over 400 horses at that facility. And I thought for sure that they would get in front of that and be able to, evacuating 400 horses is not an easy task. I thought for sure they would get in front of that, block the fire, have it go around that facility. Unfortunately, those employees sacrificed their own belongings, everything that they had, that were lost in that fire, and they rescued all of those horses by letting them out of their corrals and, letting them be free to run. Animals instinctively know what to do on their own. But my friend is so brave, and the horses are just running all over the place, and it becomes like a stampede. There's a video that one of the people had taken during that time that is up on Facebook Messenger that within just a couple of hours had over 2 million views. It's very traumatic.
Yeah, I posted it. I just posted that video in chat here for people to have a look at.
Oh, wonderful.
I looked at it last night, and it just tore me right to the core, but it's just an example, a tiny example of the suffering that's going on down there right now.
Right. And again, it was so fast moving because of these winds. Now, I have an issue with these winds situation here because they're calling it, and I've actually heard different news stations contradict each other. They're calling this Santa Ana winds. Well, this is not normal. We don't have Santa Ana winds this time of year. That usually happens in October. So we're a lot more prepared and ready for something like this to happen. But why are these winds happening now? And then I have one station that says that these are normal Santa Ana winds, and then they call them cold Santa Ana winds. I'm like, I've lived here 30 years. I've never, ever heard of cold Santa Ana winds because the wind comes off of the desert, so it's always a hot wind. And then I have another station that says these are unusual Santa Ana. So which is it? Bottom line is either you're going to try and normalize it, or you're going to recognize that it's not normal. And, there's things that are going on that just don't make any sense. I have another friend back here a couple of months ago. I went to the Pacific Redwoods and a friend for 10 days, came back, and within a month of being up there with her, in the Santa Rosa fire, their home burned down. And I just have never seen fires that work in this way, that seem selective on the homes and skipping over one, and just the way that it's burning, Barry. I know you remember the Fort McMurphy fire up there in Canada. And when I saw that fire, those are wet trees even. That's a wet climate up there. And those trees were burning like I've never seen anything burn before. And
yeah, actually, I had a couple friends that are actually frontline and were actually fighting that fire up in Fort McMurray, and one of them's a seasoned firefighter. And he says he's never, ever seen a fire act like that one did. It was going at an incredible rate. There's a lot of mitigating factors, I believe, that are affecting these fires. And one of them, I believe, has to be the amount of chemicals that are being sprayed into our atmosphere. I mean, the fact that they're spraying aluminum and beryllium into our atmosphere is undeniable at this point, as far as I can see. Mm-hmm. And that has to have an effect on fires because both of those are an accelerant. Yeah. So, well,
that it says right there on NASA.
Put gas on the fire, right? It's putting gas on the fire. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, it says right there on NASA.gov. If you Google Gov tracers and trails, it tells you right there exactly what they're putting in our upper atmosphere. And then these are nanoparticles, and it comes down, gets into the soil, then up through the root system, and it's like turning our plant life into kindling
torches.
Absolutely.
I mean, this year in British Columbia, Sunshine, we had our worst fire year in 70 years. We have never seen fires like we saw in British Columbia this year. And right now, we're a tinder box. I mean, we've been dealing with the pine beetle in British Columbia now for about 10 years. And the last number that I read, approximately 48% of all the pine trees in British Columbia now are dead. There's literally hundreds of miles of standing dead pine trees in the Caribou area, around the Prince George area, up in northern British Columbia, that if a fire ever started in these pine trees, combined with what they're spraying in the atmosphere, and I honestly believe that has to be doing something to our fires. The fact that these are nanosized particles are going to land on the leaves, they're going to stay in the root system, they're basically going to coat that tree. And I'm sure, water has an effect on it. Water will wash some of them away, but I tell you, this accumulation of particles and what we're seeing with these fires, I believe they're definitely affecting each other.
And I was saying this to a friend of mine as well. I'm like, how come people can't recognize what's going on here with that? And she says, well, it probably has to do with the lithium in the air that they're putting up in the upper atmosphere too. Lithium is a narcotic, not a narcotic, but a antidepressant. Yeah. Why are they putting lithium in our upper atmosphere? And and you wonder why people are having a difficult time wrapping their minds around what's really going on, and then being motivated enough to do something about it. I wonder, when is enough enough?
That's so we don't get depressed watching those spray our skies with chemicals, man. I mean, problem, reaction, solution. Oh, we got to laugh about it, but it isn't funny. I read the same report to Sunshine, and what they're doing that for, why they're doing that, I think is a very nefarious question. Yes, but one of the other things I was looking at today that's just absolutely boggling my mind, and we talked about it for a few minutes before the show started, was the incredible rise in earthquake activity we're seeing down in around New Zealand, Micronesia, Guam, that whole area in the last 24 hours. Well, Micronesia got a 6.7. They got a 6.4 this morning. New Zealand got a 6.2 today. And the list of 4s and 5s that have gone off in that area in the last 24 hours, as I was looking at it this morning, it's just absolutely mind-boggling. I also tuned in, of course, I do follow Dutch Sense, and I suggest to people that they do take a look at what he's doing, because his accuracy rate for predictions is around the 84 to 88% on everything he's called in the last 3 or 4 months. And he made a statement that he's never ever seen a rise in earthquake activity like he's witnessing right now in these particular areas. Of course, all earthquakes create pressure, and that pressure spreads out. And he's ringing alarm bells right now in a couple of major areas to people to be watching. I suggest people to watch him because he, I believe, has been directly responsible for saving a lot of lives on his predictions. People do listen to him, and they do make provisions to get out of those areas. And I know he saved some lives over in Italy, where he called one and people actually contacted and said they listened to him and they moved, and because of that, their lives were saved. So I don't promote too many people too much, but him I'm really following closely. He's really got this down to a fine art.
Well, I have an interesting story about Dutch Sense, and that's spelled DUTCHSINS It's Dutch Sense. He has a Facebook page. He has a website, and he also has a YouTube channel. The YouTube channel he keeps open live 24/7. There's a chat room there. And I was fortunate enough to, when I first started opening my eyes and taking a look at things, it was actually his YouTube channel that I came across about 2 days after he had started that channel, which was in April of 2016. So it hasn't even been up live for not 2 years even. And when I got there was 20 subscribers, I think. And he has over 250,000 now. So there are people who have been watching him that whole time. This isn't his first time that he's been doing this as well. He's started actually, he had another live YouTube channel about 7 or 8 years ago. Very, very special place, actually. For me, anyway. It was those 20 people were the first people that I opened up to online. And after, starting to open your eyes and take a look around, I was like, oh my gosh, I woke up on a whole other planet. What is going on? Because I didn't pay attention for years. And it was those people in that chat room that, when I was about to go insane, that, wrapped their arms around me and let me know everything was going to be okay and helped me to laugh again. And Dutch's underlying theme is much love. And that really, truly was something that I did find there. I personally, he gave me an opportunity to take the people who were coming to his channel and hanging out there and allowing me to organize them, because I'm here in California, the earthquake capital of the United States, right? And there's a lot of suppression and censorship of earthquake public safety information. And being here in California, one of the things that happened in April of 2016, right about less than 100 miles from me, was a large earthquake, 5.2. And after that earthquake, there was, within 3 days, I think, 3,000 aftershocks. It wasn't necessarily earthquake aftershocks that it was detecting. It was detecting movement. And it was detecting movement about something I didn't even know about. Now, it was magma movement in a mud butte, a volcano that had come active in the Borrego Springs area in 2012. It came active again. I didn't even know. And I tried calling the TV stations because, that's a lot of movement. Obviously, something's going on. And I called the TV news stations and said, shouldn't you be reporting this, at least making people aware that this is going on? And that they might want to be prepared, food, water, whatever they need to be prepared with. And literally was hung up on and told that they weren't interested in the information. I couldn't even believe it, Barry. And so what is that about? Why are they suppressing that kind of public safety information? So Dutch has saved lives, but he saved lives over in Europe and in Italy in particularly. Because... Because those people we are so censored in this country in our news media. It's just propaganda. It's not real news anymore. But over in that country, somebody who had been watching his channel mentioned him on the news, and there was a big earthquake in Italy, and the few days later, Dutch predicted another one was going to happen, and literally he put out a warning for it, a forecast warning. People slept in their cars because of that, and because they did, hundreds of lives were saved when another earthquake struck and buildings came collapsing down over there.
Yeah, I was actually reading some of their comment to Dutch's site about the fact that his heads up had saved their lives. So, if the guy says one life, that's a monumental task. But the fact that he has this down to a fine art now, and like I said, I wasn't even aware of Dutch until about 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been tuning in and listening to him regularly, and where he calls for these earthquakes to hit, like I said, he's running at about 80. I think it's 84 or 88% accuracy on his predictions.
I would have guessed more than that.
But even that, Sunshine, those are beyond.
It's better than what they're doing now, Barry.
Well, wait a second. Those are way beyond numbers that anybody in the scientific field has been able to match. Okay, so he's turning the scientific field upside down. Huh?
He teaches people. He teaches people how to do this forecasting.
Yeah, he wants people to learn. He's not keeping it to himself.
No.
He's not in this for the money, man. He's in there. I honestly believe the guy's in there because he wants to save lives. And if he's got it down to that point where he can call an earthquake and people listen to him and they get out of the way and that earthquake hits and that life is saved, I say kudos to the man. We need more Dutch senses in the world.
Yes, I agree. I totally agree, because there's a lot of really great, independent researchers. Jim Lee over at climateviewer.com. We were talking earlier about, the whole chemtrailing and geoengineering. His website is phenomenal. If you want to learn about, some really in-depth research that's accurate, that has everything to back up everything that he's saying, amazing website. An amazing person as well. So if all of these independent research science guys were to come together, and it really is an example of what we all need to be doing, Barry. If we all came together with the knowledge that we all individually have, then we probably would have the answers to just about everything, if you ask me.
Well, yeah, we would, Sunshine, but unfortunately we have this big problem in society called divisions. And until we can figure out and break down these walls that keep us from coming together and talking about very critical issues in our lives, we're going to continue to go down this path. But what I see happening right now is a real surge in activity worldwide as far as people becoming aware and people getting involved and people really taking a stand against what we see going on. Whether it's going to come fast enough to stop what's coming, I don't have that answer. But I do see a surge in activity, so that's a positive note.
I do see, too, that people are beginning to really sit back and take a look around. You almost can't help it with the things that are going on. If you don't stop and take just a minute to look around and start questioning, we have gotten into these routines, I think. There's a lot of factors that go into play as to what's going on with the people and why they're having such a difficult time even acknowledging the truth when it's right there in front of their face. I think that there's been a systematic disconnection put in place without our even knowing it. The whole thing's a manipulation, but this chatting and texting and emailing and commenting, these are all things that we're doing that we don't hear each other's voices, we don't see each other's faces, and I think that that's a crucial part of communication, both in being able to communicate effectively, having those skills, our comprehension, our ability to be able to understand each other. It runs pretty deep, and we really have to start thinking about taking a moment and talk to each other again. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, back in my day, and I say that because I'm a little bit older than some of the people in here. I'm in my 60s now, but we didn't have all these gadgets and toys and bells and whistles that we have today. And we communicated face to face. We interacted with each other on a large scale. And what I've seen now is our society's been taken from a face-to-face communication to a viral communication where you can hide your emotions, you can say what you want. Nobody's going to make or hurt your feelings or actually look you in the face and ask you why you're saying this and what your thoughts are. That's been taken out of our society. And it's just another mechanism of division.
It is. It's eliminating our ability to have compassion and empathy for each other as well. And then you wonder why we can't come together. One of the things that I've done since I've been, on the radio now and again, is really think about this whole concept of why we're having such a difficult time comprehending things and opening our eyes and such. One of the things I really think that most of it boils down to, Barry, that we have given our power and control away over our thoughts and our feelings and our words, and we've been stuck in routines. Again, I think by design a lot, where people are in, they require a 2-income household because of a false narrative of success.
Well, hang on. I think I'm back. Am I back there, guys? Somebody say, yes, Barry, we can hear you. I think we're back.
So welcome to the world of Skype and being dropped from servers. Happens to me. I don't know about you, Barry, but it does happen quite frequently that we call them the Skype gremlins.
They're telling me I'm back, but barely. I don't know what's going on. Kind of weird, man.
Yeah, well, the station went.
I'm getting a buzz on my Skype too. I've never heard that before. So if we're back, guys, sorry about the issues here. I mean, I was talking, and all of a sudden everything went down. So I believe we're back, and I don't know where we were in our conversation there, Sunshine.
I think I was actually saying what I asked people to do to help, bring back conversation with each other and also help us to remember. Because I think it really is a matter of not remembering, not taking the time to remember. It's just so far off of our radar. It is about taking back our power and control over our own thoughts and our own feelings and our own words, not giving that power and control away. So one of the things that I encourage people to do, and I challenge this to everybody who's listening, one day a week, pick one person in your life, a different person every day, and ask them, what does love mean to you? And this is a pretty shocking question anymore, Barry. People are shocked that you're asking. Then they have to really think about it because they haven't thought about it in so long. And it's not the movie, the movie entertainment thing about, how they've skewed love actually and distorted it and made it all something that it's really not. And I think if we were to post up that question on our social media and just start that conversation again and really listen to people want to be heard. They're desperate to be heard, desperate to be acknowledged, desperate to be, affirmed and accepted. And we need to start doing this for each other again.
Well, we have lots of issues facing our society right now, and one of them I really kind of focus on is the breakdown in communication between people and how that's been brought into our society, how they use that as a weapon to keep us from really looking at what's going on around us. So I try and engage myself in conversations every day with people. I mean, people do want to talk, but people are very reluctant sometimes to open up. Mm-hmm. It's the way our society's conditioned our brain to think. And, I've seen these changes being implemented over the last 20 or 30 years. And people think it's all great. We're in the viral age. Well, I got a completely different view of that. And what I see is the breakdown in the family in our society is something that very disturbs me very, very deeply. I mean, it seems like every form of communication is being taken away from us, and that our family is under attack. And that's a really, really something I think about a lot. But I sit back and I look at all the different attacks on our family through our health and through our mental state of being, how we're being programmed, how the core programs are being implemented in school, what the schools are turning out for pupils now. I mean, we're turning out pretzels out of universities. We really got to turn things around. And one of the ways we do it is really start talking heart to heart with your friends and your neighbors.
Yes.
It's something we're missing.
It is something that you talk about, Barry, and I really appreciate it because there is a breakdown in the family unit. I know here in the United States, it was actually that very thing that was kind of the mind bender for me. And it expounded from this point. And my daughter said to me, she's at the time she was 20 years old, and women have been so objectified, and so she was complaining about, how the objectification of women and what she has to deal with as a young lady in society here in the States, and I was saying to her, well, I don't see it like that. I see it your generation, the generation coming up after you, that these lines are blurring and we're getting past all of those things, and And it's much better when I was her age, and much better even still from when my mom was her age, or her grandmother. And she turned around and she looked at me, Barry, and she said, "Mom, it's been almost 50 years since the women's equal rights movement. We still don't have equal rights." And Barry, it just warped my mind, because I didn't know. How could I not have known it had been almost 50 years? And then I realized that I had just been placating her with some kind of really bizarre programming that was just a bunch of crap. And I apologized, but it was the catalyst. It warped my brain enough to realize that I hadn't paid attention to what's been going on in the world for like 20 years. I don't have television. I haven't had television, in over 20 years. And I really did not pay attention to what was going on in the world. And that was the second apology that I had to give both of my children, is when I started taking a look around, and it was like waking up on another planet. I couldn't believe what I was discovering, and what I was seeing was really going on. Two of the things that came right off the top was the fluoride in the water and the mercury in the vaccines. And those two things alone, I'm looking at these articles, these news articles that are saying that, fluoride's a neurotoxin. And I'm like, why is nobody doing anything about this? How come we aren't all saying, take the fluoride out of our water? I just couldn't understand why nobody was doing anything about it. And that was the start of my journey into discovering a lot of things that we aren't being told the truth about, a lot of the realities of what's going on. And I still have a difficult time, one of the other, this is one of the main things that really, if anything, will drive me crazy if I think about it too much, is that the statistic of 8 million, okay, we're talking 8 million children go missing worldwide on an annual basis. 8 million, Barry. That's a mind-blowing number.
That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money in somebody's pocket, isn't it?
Well, then look, now it's all coming out about these pedophilia, world leaders are involved in these pedophilia rings and human trafficking, and I mean, it's an astonishing number. Why aren't we all standing on our rooftops screaming at the top of our lungs, this is what's going on, this is what's happening to our children, Barry?
Yeah, I know, Sunshine, and it absolutely drives me crazy. I shed tears all the time when I see what's happening to our children. And
you just mentioned the school system. Yeah, I'm sorry. System,
but everything that's going on. I mean, the vaccination programs. There's nobody in the world that can convince me that vaccines are good for children. When I look at the rise of autism, I mean, I was looking at the latest reports on autism. The numbers are just going nuts. A couple of years ago, it was 1 in 58. It's now in 36 children, and this is from 4 different sites that I got this number. 1 in 36 children are now being born with autism. The number's even lower in girls. I think it's 1 in 27 now girls are born with autism, were the last numbers I looked at. Well, my God, what's going on in our society, guys? Why aren't we all screaming at the top of our lungs about what's happening to our children? We're creating a generation coming up that is going to be such a burden on their parents, on the health system, our society in general. The zombie apocalypse is coming. And it's like right in front of our faces, and we're not doing anything to stop it. We can talk about it, we scream about it, but nothing gets done. You have these incredible hearings in front of Congress, and these facts are brought out, but nothing gets done. Why, man? Why?
Yeah, I don't understand that either. The bipartisanness of governments, it's nothing can get done because all they do is argue with each other, and nothing ever gets resolved. The bipartisan, it's the separation. It's just another example of us being divided rather than coming together. Here in California, about the vaccines, Barry, here in California, they passed a law now that says that your children cannot attend public school system unless they're vaccinated. It's a law. And so you don't even have the choice to opt out. But here's where it gets really, sure, you can homeschool your child. But who can do that? Especially here in California, the cost of living is so high. And you kind of say, well, why California? This is no surprise that it would be the first state that would have mandatory vaccines like that, because nobody can afford to stay home. You've got 2-income families. The cost of living, cost of housing is so high. What choices do you have? And this brings up a whole nother point, because really, if we get honest, it is about sacrifices that we're going to have to make, Barry. People are going to have to sacrifice some time to start doing their own research instead of watching that sitcom that's just keeping you brain dead. We have to dedicate some time to look at what's really going on. If you aren't taking the time to do your own research and start looking into some of these things for yourself, then you're just... Don't tell your child that you love them. I have a difficult time, just with saying I love you to a child and sending them off to school and them drinking fluorinated water. That's not love. We wouldn't send our child to go be poisoned by the water that they have to drink at school. So, well, yeah, it's really, the sacrifices are going to have to be made.
Well, you're right. In California, they set it up so that both parents do have to work. So pretty well, you have to put your child in the school system. And if they're forcing vaccines down your throat, then our society really has got to a point where, boy, oh boy, are we in trouble. Because if they can force vaccines down our throats, what else can they throw down our throats? I mean, you give them an inch and they'll take a mile. I mean, the whole breakdown of our family is happening in front of our eyes, and people don't see it. I mean, any time in history that a family unit has broken down in a society, that society is broken down. And I've studied that in history, and wow, man, we're right there now. We're right where Hitler was in 1938 in Germany, when you can force vaccines on people. We're really in a bad state. Me, I look at the whole charade, and it's just, two sides putting up a charade. They put out information. We think we're winning, when really we're not even in the game.
So what are the solutions then, Barry? Because I really like to offer people some solutions, and I know that you do as well. We can't just continue. In my opinion, okay, I do know that our thoughts and our feelings and our words are vibration, and vibration is what manifests this reality. And we've been manipulated into putting our focus, our thoughts, our feelings, our words, our focus onto this propaganda media, mainstream media, news media, into all these negative things that are happening. And really, I see it as us manifesting this, all of this ourselves. And I also recognize that the only way that it's going to stop is to change our focus, and really, if we want to have a higher conscious awareness, we need to become self-aware. And I think it really does start there. Taking back our power and control over our own thoughts and our own feelings and our own words, not allowing ourselves to be victimized anymore by deceptive manipulation by the news media or the entertainment industry or even the truth community. Okay, I think that they are using us in a way to perpetuate what's happening, because we're talking about the truth about some of these things. And I think that the solution really is first taking back our own power and control, and not allowing, going within and becoming self-aware, being very conscious, especially of our words that we're using with each other, in the way that we say things and how we talk to each other. If we can just start respecting ourselves, and then respecting the people around us, doing things from a place of loving kindness, not allowing our thoughts to be manipulated, not allowing our feelings, our emotions to override rationality, and going into anger because of all of this, or going into, cognitive dissonance because it's so much to try and wrap our minds around. We are very powerful. Our minds are far more powerful than we've ever been given credit. So that's my solution, and some of the things that I'm talking about.
Yeah, well, there's lots of different problems out there, and there is solutions to just about every problem that I see on the planet today. But it's going to take people getting to a point where their priorities are changed. That what we see happening right now on this world is that we're basically killing this planet. And I look 10, 15 years down the road from now, and I ask myself, what kind of a pile of crap are we leaving our kids to deal with? I look at every issue environmentally right now. I look at all things that are happening on the planet, the die-off of our species. All this political stuff that we talk about, well, nations are going to rise and nations are going to fall. But really, if we don't have a planet to support life, what are we leaving for the future of our children? And, I never thought in my life I would actually be able to say that and actually believe it 100%. But really, anybody with any common sense that really looks at environmental issues worldwide will come to the conclusion that the food chain is in trouble. And if we continue to take pieces out of this food chain, it's going to collapse. And then, of course, there'll be a cry worldwide that we need to do something about it. But really, folks, at that point, I believe it's going to be too late. The time to really get involved is now. And sure, like I said, political will come and go. But really, to me, Sunshine, it comes down to what are we leaving for our children in the future? What can we do about that right now? That kind of gives people a feeling of being able to actually get involved and make changes. And, I talk about all kinds of different solutions. I talk about one of my focuses, of course, is cannabis. I mean, I focus on that a ton of my conversations. And, man, I'll tell you, there's, people want solutions to problems. Well, there is the number one solution as far as I'm concerned on the planet Earth today. But we're being held back. It's now being legalized. I mean, this whole charade about legalizing it, I don't believe in the word legalizing. I believe in the word decriminalization. That this plant should be used worldwide like it was for thousands of years in human history and was taken away from us at the turn of the century and in the 30s and 40s. And along came reefer madness and the demonization of, we all know the history from there. But to me, it's really kind of looking right now at what we are going to be seeing in 10 years from now based on what's happening right now on the planet. And we really need to nip that in the bud as far as I'm concerned. And
I think that
there's lots of other issues. There's lots of other issues that we need to focus on, but that seems to be, we talk about solutions, and I really focus on solutions now. We haven't even talked about free energy and what's coming down the pipes as far as free energy, the fact that we don't need nuclear power, that all of this can be put to an end. The human race has really got to embrace that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. You have taught me so much about cannabis and the uses of hemp that are just mind-blowing to me, what we can do with that. With hemp, this isn't even about cannabis with THC for medical reasons. There's so much that we can do with hemp, and you wonder why there's so many solutions to all of these things. Holistic healing, this has been something that has been suppressed and not told or taught, and honestly, Barry, there's such a mind-blowing statistic in regards to holistic healers, people who have the understanding, that education, that knowledge that they try and share with others, and they end up mysteriously, dead at a very young age, and it's mind-blowing. And
200 holistic healers have ended up dead in the United States in the last 3 years. Well, you tell me what's going on there, Sunshine.
What's going on, exactly.
What's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, I'll let you talk for a minute. We got about 4 minutes left or 5 minutes left on the show now. So I'll let you talk for a few minutes, and I'm going to add some thoughts.
Sure, there are solutions, and I don't think that one of the solutions is to stand up and fight. We don't have to protest in the way that we've always protested, where we go out into the streets and It's actually in this day and age, it's putting yourself at risk. It's something that has never worked in the past. How many decades now have we been doing that, and it hasn't changed anything? I think that the ultimate solution is that we remember who has the power and control. We the people, by the people, for the people. We do have that power if we take it back, and we take it back from the financial institutions, from the corporate, government-owned, the corporate-owned governments, by stopping and participating in being consumers. I think that if we all just were to plan ahead, pick a day, everyone prepares for it, you get a week's worth of food for you and your family, and then stay home, turn off the TV, don't buy anything, don't go to work, don't pay your mortgage, your bills, none of that. And within 2 or 3 days, trillions will be lost. And that is when we could take back our power and control without putting our lives at risk in the streets.
I've seen many people try that approach before, and it hasn't flown. So, what it would take to get people to get involved in that, I don't know. But it's a good idea. But in the same mouthful, there's lots of other ways that we can take pieces out of the corporate wheel that's rolling over top of us. I haven't shopped at Walmart now in about 3 years, just by taking your money and supporting local businesses, a grassroots movement. I believe all changes in our society are going to come from grassroots movements, and hence comes back the word cannabis, because now we are building materials with cannabis-based products that are cheaper than actual, believe it or not, normal building construction. There's a company in Calgary that I'm involved with now big time, and I'll tell you, when people start looking at what can be done with hemp as opposed to normal building construction, just that issue alone will absolutely sway society into changing the way that we're doing things. I'll post a link in the chat there at the end of the show, guys, but you got to look at what this company's doing in Calgary. It's just unprecedented, and I've got 3 builders up here in Terrace now that are really looking hard at constructing one of these premises. It's just absolutely a no-brainer when you look at all the information available about their product as opposed to normal building construction. I don't have enough time to get into what all those are right now, but if you, I'll post a link in chat here at the end of the show, and you guys can go have a look at what they're doing with this. It's something that we can grab and really change what's going on in our society. It all comes from movement at grassroots, and if we all sit back and say, hey, we've had enough of this, we're going to do something different. We're going to do something to actually benefit the planet and not buy into your corporate bullshit, excuse my language, we'll see changes.
Yes, I agree. Stop participating in the systems that are enslaving us. And it is possible. Holistic healing, there's so many, if you do your research about that, we can have the ability to free ourselves from big pharma, which is really just poisoning us and keeping us sick to continue their abundance, but it's not helping.
Absolutely.
us.
We started the show talking about the fires in California, and just before we leave here, I do send my thoughts out to those people, and anybody that's in the way of that fire, get the hell out of the way, because this one really is. I was just looking at another link on it, and it is growing at incredible rates right now, and they can't stop it. These winds that are coming in, they're talking about it right now, sunshine. It's just unprecedented. It's fanning this fire like crazy, so get out of the way if you're in the way of that. My thoughts go to you guys down in California.
Thank you, Barry, and thank you for having me on today, and thank you to all the listeners here. We can do this, and it does need to happen sooner than later, Barry. It's really imperative we start taking action and doing something. We have to do something.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Sunshine. If we don't become active, one day we're going to have to look our children in the face and say, we knew something about this, but we didn't get involved. And I don't want to be in that position. At least we're all trying to do something about it in our own way, and I just urge people to get involved, stand up against the corporations that are taking over our world and destroying our planet.
Start really talking to each other again.
Yeah. And next week, guys, I am going to have a Calgary MP on, and we're going to blast Mr. Justin Trudeau. I'm glad I didn't get into that conversation with the guy, guys, because my blood pressure goes right through the roof when I see what's going on inside my country. But we'll talk about that next week if they still allow us to do that.
We have to really, people, 8 million children a year go missing annually. What is really going on? We have to take a stand. This is our children. Come on.
Have a good week, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Love you all, and I'll see you.